Alright, this is, welcome to my workbench. This is one of my first orders since the COVID shutdown, so thank you very much for the order. This is sent to me from, well, let's call him a patron in Chicago, so it's actually not too far from me. So, I got sent to me a Sega Nomad and 2 rechargeable battery packs. Fortunately for everyone, battery technology has advanced quite a bit in the last 25 years. These are actually nickel metal hydride short AA's. Got some corrosion on here, so at least one of the cells has failed. So I figured this is the first time I've actually worked with one of these. Now I have 2 of them to play with. The fortunate thing is these thick AA styles, these are technically B size cells. In case you ever wonder what a B looks like, it look like that. So these cells here are shot, and they weren't rated all that long. They'd only power up a Nomad maybe 2-3 hours tops. After like 16 hours of charging, you get maybe 2-3 hours of battery life off of it. So this one was sent to me to do a full upgrade on it, replace the screen, because the screens are pretty awful. Once I get it powered up, I'll demonstrate how kind of shoddy the screens are. No mystery here. I actually order all my parts from Console 5, which actually they're very quick shipping. I had no delays at all, which is really nice. Some of the items I need actually are delayed, so it's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. But, these nice people actually came through. I like throwing business their way because they're actually quite good. So I ordered up new power jacks. So I'm going to replace the power jack on here. This is the audio video out. I replaced that as well. I also got a capacitor kit. I'll be replacing the capacitors on here. These are the surface mounts. This is the same style that's in there. These are little video connectors. I ordered a couple of screens, 2 for myself for fun. These are going to go into probably a I have a Gamecom where I'm not sure if I'm going to go with this or an HDMI screen, but I'm going to build in a Raspberry Pi into one, and that should be. So that's a project for myself coming up. So I've got a screen for that. That goes aside. It's another same thing. Those are the cables that go with it. This is the one I really wanted. This one is, they called it the small board screen. Nomad's kind of neat. It actually has composite built into the board, so you don't have to do anything fancy in terms of like if you do a McWill for Atari Lynx or Game Gear, there's a lot of auxiliary wiring, especially the Game Gear's frankly a pain in the ass. In this one, I decided to go with this bracket, this nice 3D printed back bracket, which I don't know how it assembles yet. But yeah, there it goes. So it's a nice little 3D assembled bracket. Otherwise, I have to go through and manually like shave down some of the internal guts to the. Oh, isn't that cute? I have to actually go through and shave down plastic internally, and this is nice because looks like I can tuck this underneath just like so. Yeah, there you go. So I'll be able to tuck that underneath and have a nice little neat little setup, and it's gonna be a lot easier to integrate than I'm used to doing. Usually I'm in there filing stuff down. It's kind of a pain, so this wasn't that expensive and should work out really nice. The more interesting part is this. I'm going kind of crazy with the battery packs. What I like to do when I work on a project is I like to keep everything in one box together. So I have these nice like shoebox size containers, so I'm gonna put all my parts in one place so nothing gets lost. I don't need two of those out right now. These are mine, so I keep those. Pack those parts away. Caps. Connectors. So for tonight, I'm just going to show you. This is I opened up the battery pack. A little scratch there, but I'll buff that out. I found, of all things, a watch case back opening tool is the best way to pry this open without really scuffing it up too much. I'm going to have to go through with a little bit of Brasso once I'm done and just polish off the surface. It's very simple. It's 6 cells, so these are like 1.2 volts a cell, so you get 8.5-ish volts out of it. This is existing charging circuit. All this is coming out. Let me grab the cells I'm going to use. I haven't gotten the new cells in yet, but I'll show you the size I'm using. These are leftover from other projects I've done. These are they call them 18650 lithium-ion cells. These are neat because the power output of them now is crazy good compared to what they used to be. Even this one, I'm not reusing these because it's only 2600 milliamp hours, which isn't enough. I actually went out and found 9800 milliamp hours, so a crap ton of watt hours are going to come out of these. I'm guessing probably 24 hours of battery life, somewhere around there. Should be about roughly 9 times the energy density of these cells, so we should get 9 times the battery life, so 18-20 hours, somewhere around there. So but the nice thing is, since they use these nice thick cells, I can go in and pack in 3 of these side by side with only a little bit of, actually I might not need to manipulate it at all, because once I get the new cells in, they're not going to have this extra covering on there. Worst comes to worst, I'll have to shave just a tiny bit of plastic off of this just so it fits in this a little bit better, but they actually fit in there pretty flat right now. So what I end up doing is I'll have 3 of these 18650 cells here. I'll have 3 of them side by side, and I have this neat little USB charging circuit. It's about yay big. Again, something I'm still waiting for to come in. I'm gonna have to mill out a little bit of plastic here, but the USB charging port will come in exactly where this DC used to be. So I'll have that charging port there, and I'll probably end up either wiring in the old LED for display. Well, I'm taking this and steal the LED off of it, or I'll like bore 2 little sight holes in here just to show the charge. There's a red light for charging, green light for good, and they'll have a little charging circuit, and so you just plug in standard USB in here to charge it up. So that's what I'm going to be working on next few days. Unfortunately, I'm one of those darn required workers, so I'm still working 40 hours a week, so it's kind of limiting how much I can work down here on my workbench. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. So yeah, I should be able to pack in 3 of these big cells. Tomorrow night I'll probably crack open the Nomad. This to show you looks, well, maybe I got a little time. Maybe I'll take a look at the Nomad right now. Put this aside. Nomad was he's a portly fellow. He's a very thick system because they had to take the entire standard Sega Genesis cartridge in there. So kind of cool though. I wish one of these I'll probably end up buying one for myself and modifying it. That's the irony on the. I fix retro systems. I don't actually have all that many of them, so I'll go through and might buy one of these eventually. I'm not sure. So yeah, it takes the standard Sega Genesis. Kind of neat. Has a second controller output. So if you wanted to play 2-player, you can plug it into a TV. One player uses this as a controller. You got a nice 6-button controller going on here. And then you can have someone else with a standard Genesis controller elsewhere. And this actually had audio and video coming out. So you can just plug it in TV, use it like a console. So kind of a neat one. Biggest problem, battery life. 2 problems, battery life and the screen. Oh, other than the Gamecom, I think it's probably the worst screen of any of this, just about any system. Game Gear has a really bad screen too. The Nomad, for such a powerful machine, they put just an awful passive matrix screen that blurs like crazy. But I'll do a side-by-side because I'll have the screen and I'll have the new screen next to it real time, and you can see what a huge difference it is between the old and the new. Let's see. I'll show you what the inside of a Nomad looks like. Can't remember if they have an anti-tamper in one of these. They probably do. I think this one's an anti-tamper. The Game Gear had the same similar anti-tamper. It sat right up here under right by where the cartridge slotted in. Yep, anti-tamper down there. If I wanted to see it, there it is. Hiding down the hole. There's your anti-tamper. It's your anti-tamper bit. Hopefully I don't mess up the plastic too bad on here. I actually need a better anti-tamper bit one of these days, because on the Game Gear it works fine, but on the Nomad I actually can't quite hit it. Do I have another one? Let's see. That one's too on the small side. I have quite a few anti-tamper bits. But I'm just questioning if I can. Yeah, see. I'm gonna have to rammer jammer it down in there. Sadly, sorry. Usually I end up scuffing that surface a little bit just to get at it. No harm, no foul. These are these little annoying little bits, the screws they used. Alright, so this is the inside of a Nomad. So kind of a neat little system. It's a complete Sega Genesis, really. The actual internal code name was Venus. You know, you had the Sega Saturn. There's also going to be Sega Neptune. It never was released. It was the successor to it. But this actually was called Venus, was its internal name. So you have your screen, which used a little fluorescent backlight here, which is kind of cool, and it has a neat sheet that comes along here that reflects back into it. Here you can see is IC Venus. So this board contains all the drivers for the LCD screen, and then the other side, these little connectors, you pry it open like this, and you pull it straight down, and it comes out. So you can see here, this is your this has all the drivers for it. I'll pull these screws out and pull this out later, but this is, you got your volume control over here, amplifier volume control, and over here you have your brightness control. And this is just this subboard here. I always wonder why they only put one screw. I've noticed this before. Oh no, that's because it hits here. This just holds the start and mode button here. This mostly is on the other side, and when I take it off, you'll just see it's just a bunch of it's just the pads for the controls. Most of the brains are actually on under here. So we can mess with that later. You can see the engineering behind it. Like, this is where your D-pad would press, so it's installed underneath, and this is where your 6 button controls are. So when you have force going through it, it hits this rigid plastic instead of flexing the PC board itself. So the PC board's here, but it has a support underneath, so it's not putting constant flexing force on that PC board. So pretty decent engineering overall. Well, since I'm here, I can show you. Let's take a look. Lots of little screws. These old consoles, with the exception of the Lynx and the Game Boy, which are ironically the older consoles, portables, had very few screws. Like a Lynx 1 only has like, I think only had like 6 screws internally, and I mean in total it was pretty amazing. And the Lynx 2 is very similar. Game Boy only has, I think, 5 screws. Nintendo uses little tri-wing screws for theirs. Neat upgrade I've done on that, on the Game Boy Advance, not the flippy one, but the old AGS. I've modified it so you can actually put the nice backlit screen in there, and it makes a world of difference. Wow, these screws are not behaving today. Get in there. I'm gonna pull this up, and actually probably can leave that. Let's pull that. Yeah, man. Feeling that's attached to the screen, I'll leave that. And this guy over here. Those wires there for the speaker. I think. I can't remember. Maybe it's the high power. Let's see when I flip it over. I think these are the speaker. This is the speaker. Can't remember. See when we flip it over. Try to get those out. I do like when they use this a single size screw for everything. It makes it a lot easier when you're putting everything back together again, instead of having to hunt. The worst offender I've ever seen by far was the Tiger Gamecom. It has like 8 different sizes screws, and I think close to 35 screws, which is just insane. Yeah, that did it. is the speaker. Pull the speakers off. Okay. This is interesting. Then I'll show you. Alright. So this is the, it's just your standard membrane. This is conductive carbon pads. Identical to technology to what they use now. There's nothing new about it. Or it's still current tech speaker. And the push buttons, and the buttons. I'm just going to leave this. I'm not going to mess with it. And that can go. See, almost everyone I've seen has had a cracked. Right there, there's been a crack in the little bit of rubber they use. I don't know why. Put that with the rest of the parts. So this board, you can see there's actually not a lot to it. There's just, these are your pads for your, this black is conductive carbon. These are your pads. And then there's the screen that's going to go away. And before I take out the screen, I'm going to add the new one. So new screen is actually pretty simple. You come in over here on these pads. I can't remember which test points it is. I'll get my notes out before I actually dive into this. So this new screen actually ties into here, and then over on this side there's a 5 or 12 volt line. I'll tap into over here for the power for it. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to go through and start. Probably replace some of the caps, particularly on the big ones, and then start replacing the screen. So that's enough for tonight. Getting a little tired. Worked a full day today, and I'll go through and show you what goes on under here. Till probably tomorrow. Talk to you all then. Bye bye.